Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the best podcast for the business and marketing side of the sawmill, lumber, and wood industry. What's a woodpreneur? If you have a business where you make money as a woodworker, sawmill owner, selling slabs, or a content creator, then you're a woodpreneur. My name's Steve Larziliere, and I started Woodpreneur Life, Acres of Timber, and the Woodpreneur podcast just for makers, wood entrepreneurs, and small business owners just like you. We're on a mission to empower thousands of wood businesses to grow sustainably and put out great products. Each week, I interview makers, sawyers, content creators, and 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs that know the wood industry inside and out. With topics covering everything from the urban lumber movement, sustainable sourcing and design, we'll discuss the ins and outs of how to grow, monetize, and fully immerse yourself in the woodpreneur lifestyle. If you're a hobbyist, a full-time wood business owner, part-time entrepreneur who wants to become a content creator, or quit your day job to pursue your dreams, the Woodpreneur podcast is just for you. Thanks so much for listening. Now enjoy this episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve Larziliere. Today's guest is Jack Forsberg. How you doing, Jack?
Pretty good, Steve.
Well, thanks for being on the podcast. Hey, why don't you tell everybody about what you do in your business?
Well, I don't know really what to describe myself as. A lot of people ask me that, and I'm not sure what to say. I mean, I can say that the typical titles like carpenter and cabinet maker and designer and fabricator and all those sorts of things. But I did start out thinking that I wanted to be a furniture maker, and it's probably the least amount of stuff I do now. So I guess the new lingo is a maker, right? I have a small little factory in my backyard, which I operate by myself and maybe some subcontractors. Used to be much larger, and now I strictly do my own work. So I find that's much more lucrative.
Yeah. What do you mainly specialize in?
Well, I specialize in renovation, I guess, is a big one, but historical renovation specifically. For instance, we're starting a job at the museum. So we do museum work where not only am I tendering the work, I'm also preparing what work needs to be done. So it's a unique situation, and that came about from me starting to restore woodworking machinery, so that my woodworking business would take off, and I sort of became famous for my woodworking machinery, and the word got out, and I have a huge gathering here every year at the Woodworking Temple, which is my shop.
Yeah.
And that has sort of snowballed into letting people know what I do, because about 200 to 300 people come yearly and say, "Oh, if you need something done like that." So, I mean, anybody who follows me on social media knows what I do.
Yeah.
It's always something different. I wouldn't say I've pigeonholed myself into a business plan of making product per se. The product is me, and what comes from that. So I don't know
That's
if that
cool.
answers your question.
No, it did. Tell us the backstory. How did you get into this business?
Well, I always wanted to. I always wanted to be a craftsman. Ever since I can remember building as a child, stealing dad's tools and just wanting to be a craftsperson. I remember vividly in high school not being sent to the right high school that was technical, and I'm 62, so that was a few years ago. The school board still had, and I imagine it's the same in the Americas, they still had technical training for what they would consider the idiots that couldn't pass academia. And
Yeah.
so, and I think, at least in Canada, many of those institutions were gotten rid of. And so I, I, I specifically want to go to one, and they said, no, that's just for idiots. So I said, well, how do you know I'm not an idiot? And so they tested me. And of course, I passed that test because I knew I had to be an idiot. And
Yeah.
they sent me to a technical school. So that was my first I knew that's what I was going to do, even though it was against all of the guidance counselors' recommendations that this was the worst thing to get into. Now, this was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Today, you couldn't convince anybody of not getting into the trades.
Sure. For sure. For sure. And how long has this iteration of your business been in existence? Or what was this the first one, or did you have something that you did before?
So I started off. I think my first paying job was at 15, making picnic tables for just a two-man shop, and it was for like a place called Canadian Tire, which would be like a Walls Green sort of sized
Yeah.
place. And that was my first paying job. By the time I was 19, I was working as a cabinet maker for a traditional trained German apprenticed cabinet maker and a British apprentice. I'm grateful that I had those. They took
Yeah.
me under the wing. By the time I was 20, I was running that shop and dissatisfied with what we were doing,
Yeah.
mostly because the pay wasn't any good
Yeah.
in comparison to what I thought was fair, but the world's not fair. And so I went out on my own and have been on my own for 47 years.
Wow. Wow. And I'm on your website, and it looks like you got a good little team underneath you. Tell us about how you, and that's, I guess that's more of the fest. How did the business evolve from like this making for clients to this community gathering? You got a super interesting business model.
Yeah, well, I guess it's because it wasn't a business model. So
Mm,
and what I meant by that is, at first, I think when you're trying to get into the industry, you're looking for clients and paid work so that you can eat and survive and or buy the tools or do whatever it is. And for the most part, you have to say yes to all the jobs.
yeah,
This is how you build your capital. This is how you buy new machines. And I think once you get to that point, for instance, I went into furniture making, as I said earlier, as my desire to make things, but really that didn't pay the bills. And so I got into making kitchens, and kitchens paid fairly well. This was before they were, ransacked with everybody making kitchens.
hmm
And
hmm
that hooked me up to designers, because I was a fairly accomplished craftsperson. And
hmm
architects. I worked with the best architects, the best designers. And what I found is that they didn't really know what they were doing, and the reason that they wanted me is I would fix all their problems and fill in all of their. I would basically make their stuff look good, even though they didn't know exactly how to do that. Very stressful, lots of money. If you can handle that kind of thing, it's a good way to grow. But
yeah,
understand that you will never be the person that comes forward. In other words, when someone comes in and says, "Who did that job?" your name does not come up. Their name
mm,
does.
yeah,
And so I came to that realization, left a six-figure job in the 90s to start out on my own. And it was
mm,
completely financially devastating. And what I discovered is that I didn't need the architects, and that's probably maybe I'm a little more talented than the average person in woodworking business who doesn't have any design background, which my dad was an architect, and so he taught me how to draw and most importantly, how to talk to architects and designers in a language that they understood. And I think the frustration with anybody who works for designers might say they can't handle it because they change everything. And so you really need to learn how to talk to them in a way that they deliver, because they'll give you more work than you can handle. The more you give them, the more they'll give you,
yeah,
and that'll cause you to hire people, which I did. I had up to six people working for me, and what happened with that was, although the money was good,
yeah,
I was pretty much miserable in the sense that I wasn't really any no longer making things because
mm,
my position became dealing with the clients, writing contracts, making sure that projects were ahead so that my guys had a stable, working environment,
yeah,
and and it just got to the point where I started to sort of take on work that I wouldn't normally have taken on.
Because you
Uh,
needed the bill paid.
well, not that so much, but you know, it because you start to get into the mindset of, well, that's money, and you
Yeah, yeah,
start,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you start reading the little management books and stuff like that, and you know, you try to figure it out because it's in a lot of ways much more difficult. I think for anybody going through it, they really have to answer a few questions to themselves honestly, and that is, are you an entrepreneur or are you an artist? And
Hmm.
often those two don't coincide.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you grapple with that and decide which one. So I think where I am now, because of all of that, is I've reached a point where the entrepreneur side is balanced with the artistic side, and so I realized that if I'm not going to make the money with 6 employees, compounding and making little bits off of each of my employees and all, and sort of the typical business model to grow and try to keep up, because I mean it's easy. You come across me as a more of a salesperson sort of, and sales is what makes the world go around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is Sales is also probably the highest paid venue,
Yeah.
eclipsing doctors and all kinds of stuff. The problem with sales is the sales guys can outpace the businesses,
Hmm.
and the businesses falter by not keeping up to the obligations of the sales.
Yeah.
Either they can't grow fast enough, or they don't understand um, uh, what it is they're offering anymore, and
Hmm.
and so I think it can lead them down areas that they might not feel they're actually in control. They're much more reacting
Hmm.
to like these are, they would say, bad, these are good bad problems that I have too much work.
Yeah.
And so as I matured, I realized that what do I want here? Like, do I want the business to run me, and pay me dividends and use a bunch of retail therapy to make me happy,
Yeah.
or do I just become confident in myself and say, no, you know what, you're not the right client for me, and how much would I have to charge and make and do if I just did it by myself? And I thought that would honestly sink me.
Mm.
And because who's going to pay these extraordinary prices, because there's not the efficiency of big crews and all of these things. And what I discovered is no one has said no.
Mm.
There's a huge lack of skilled tradespeople.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses, but there's very few, and most of the businesses now, including the machinery to make things, is to minimize the craft, what I call eliminate the craftsmanship by a mechanism or a procedure, right? So that we can generally hire unskilled labor at lower prices so that we can compete in the market fairly.
Yeah.
And the problem is that creates a generic product that everybody has. And now you're in that rat race. And, when the economy is good, that is good.
Yeah.
Okay. If you haven't expanded too rapidly, which it almost demands you do,
Yeah.
uh, you can get yourself caught. And many people do. And I've been around long enough through enough recessions to see the people that got caught. So you can make big fast and you can lose big fast. Okay. And so, but honestly, you got to do it. You got to do it. So
Yeah. If it's
you have
there,
to
you got
do
to do
these
it.
things.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to do it to be able to talk about why you wouldn't want to do it or why it's not right. Because I've met people that are very good entrepreneurs, much better than I would say I would. I wouldn't say I was good. Um, I know how to do a contract. I know how to talk to people. I know how to present myself. And I know what I can offer. So if someone asks me for something that I don't agree with, I'm not insulting or anything. I just either guide them to the right people. Like one of the things I tell people, new clients, which I don't take on that many anymore. I have enough clients now that they just recycle.
Yeah.
Okay, and in the last 10 or 15 years, all I've done is sort of, sorry that like I just brought up my clientele to what I say we work together well at. So the museum work, I work for the National Capital Commission on contract. I'm my own independent person. And I'm
Yeah.
dealing with people that are in very high levels, that have, engineers, architects that have a hard time talking to the trades,
Yeah.
in regards to what they want, because you would know this, Steve, that there's a real disconnect between craftsmen and the professionals. The
Yeah.
professionals think the craftsmen are below them, and the craftsmen think the professionals are idiot.
Or way below them.
And
Yeah.
both of them are right. And
Yeah.
and so what I found is that's been my niche, is to go in and no one asks me to come build this. This is typically what my projects are like. Jack, what should we do here? That's a typical question. Jack, our kitchen's too small. What should we do here? And I'll come in and say, okay, well, and I sit down. We do an assessment, and I'll throw out some numbers and stuff like that, and we all get going. And I talk to them about budget, and I say, look, I know you don't want to tell me how much money you got because I'm a contractor.
Yeah.
Okay, but I need to know how much money you got.
Yeah.
Okay, because we can't, like you ask me for a kitchen. I go, well, there's a lot of nice kitchens. Small Bones in England makes a kitchen, starts at £300,000. Like, which one do you want, right? And the problem is you don't know what you want, and
Yeah.
you're just spitballing. And so I've been very good at making people comfortable and going down what I call a more responsible way of uh, building, and because ultimately I want the whole project to be successful for the
Yeah.
client, for me. And so that's really what it's evolved to. And that's because I went through the professional ring where the highfalutin designers, who were pulling up in Mercedes, and 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 I know how much they were charging, $3,000 to $1,000 an hour for consultation, and where that money went. And so I learned that, look, guys, if you want a value here, um, why don't we just take some, like, sure, you have to have some design, but you don't know the value of design.
Yeah.
And I really am an advocate to my client as opposed to a service bought by them. Um, and that has built my reputation.
That's awesome. What year did you start your gatherings?
So this year will be year 11, but we missed 2 years of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be the 11th annual. The Rust Fest is really not is not a business per se. Although my brother Matt, he's the one responsible for the logos and the website and all that, he's fully trained as a graphic designer in marketing. He's done like big clients for Disney and stuff like that. I leave all that kind of stuff to him. In fact, 10 years ago, he said, Jack, you need to get your stuff together, because I was unfamiliar with that. So my brother, Matt, which, uh, the website, my t-shirt designs, all of that stuff, all I do is jump on social media.
Yeah.
And so he just takes that sort of thing. Social media has done a number of things for me, uh,
Yeah.
which I would encourage anybody to get on social media. That if you are not on social media to any extent, you are going to lose. You're going to lose, because everybody makes an arrangement prior to talking to you on the internet. So if you don't have content out there, I don't even care if it's bad, you're not even going to get the call.
Yeah.
So so that's uh, the Rust Fest is about, I guess, 12 years old. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. Its premise is on quality. So all
Mm-hmm.
it is, it's free to attend. I know I don't charge.
Wow.
we lost money for about the first 5 years, but I did it anyway. That wasn't the reason. Wasn't to make money. The reason was to have people of like mind just get together,
Yeah.
and the like mindedness being high quality, getting people acquainted to artists and that type of craftsman. Because I really think that today there's this, if there was a product, it is that nobody has ever experienced having something made for them, truly made for them,
Yeah.
where they're involved. And I mean, I think that's what social media is sort of attaching itself to. And what I mean by that is many of the creators I know that are on social media, which I wouldn't include myself as one, um, will tell you they make more money on the social media side of it than the actual thing that they're making.
Yeah.
And and so it goes to tell you that, okay, well, so why would someone pay more to watch you do it than to just buy it from you? And it's this starvation of having something made, or can I do that?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's been my experience with the clients I have, is they're like, I just, it they just enjoy so much having someone make something for them, as opposed to clicking a button and buying it on Amazon.
Yeah. 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 We are we're I think it might have started with the food, right? Where people wanted to know where their food came from, and then it carried over into all other products and sustainability and that sort of stuff. But I almost feel like, yeah, what you're doing is and you have been doing this for a while, and you said it keeps getting bigger. People want to be closer towards having meaning and touching things with their hands and meeting other people just like them.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
and also too, to know that you're not crazy. Like, you're not alone in your obsession and your passion for making and building, and you can connect with people in a new and different, and just in real life, right? Beyond
Well,
direct
that is, I
message.
think, that is in the nutshell what the social media does. Is it attaches us to groups of people that wouldn't be large enough in our city, and
Yeah.
um, and then also to rub shoulders with great people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's all. So what does this year look like for you, just in general for your business?
Well, we're booked. I don't book more than a year in advance. I think it's sort of
Mm,
stupid. So as I said, my model is only to keep me and a few of my dedicated subcontractors busy, and so
yeah.
I select out really good work. So um, and so we're doing the museum work, which is an ongoing. So there's a museum that I'm redoing, which is an 1860s grist mill on the Rideau Canal, which is a UNESCO heritage site. And this, I'm rebuilding the entire mechanism. So this is a water powered grist mill that is 3.5 stories tall. It's the tallest machine I've ever restored, like,
Wow.
and completely carte blanche. So I set out a proposal. Okay, here's what we got to do. I got to talk to the board members, find out where their finances were coming from. Got that to line up with how much we could afford to spend a year. Museums don't have money. I mean, they have
Yeah.
money, and so you can't. One of the things I learned younger on is if people don't have money and you want to do the work, that's a dangerous thing for you, because
Hmm.
you'll probably want to do it, and you think the solution is to give them uh, a lower price, when really what you need to do is go, well, that's how much money you got. This is what you get for that money, and that becoming the value thing. So you don't work for less, you just do less, and you're much more organized. And so the museum work is for 5 years. That's blocked out for the springs. I take 2 to 3 months at the beginning of each year to work on the shop, my own personal health, just to do stuff that I think if you become too busy, you never can do.
Yeah.
So I know you saw lumber. So this is the time where, you know, you got to clean up the slabs. There's a lot of stuff. Oh, that's horrible. I hate that bottleneck over there. I need those sorts of things. So that work time is much more enjoyable. You're able to wear all the hats, deal with the customers, and all those sorts of things. And then we keep about a month open. I have a big, huge door that I have to do on the St. Lawrence River, some mansion on the St. Lawrence River, and once again, they're like hounding me. Don't, oh, you haven't forgot about me? No, I haven't forgot about you. But if I wanted to, I could easily be booked solid for 5 years. But it's stupid. It's
Yeah.
because you want to keep pertinent. And I tell people, look, you can call me next year and see if I'm available and stuff like that. And that has not damaged uh, my reputation or the amount I can charge or anything like that. And I think it's much more recession proof too. It's I think that most people during recessions, and I don't know if I've been waiting for that to happen. I haven't seen it happen, but I know it's going to happen, and it's going to go through the industry. And what I've seen in the past, because I've gone through the .com, the '87 bubble crash, the housing crisis in 2008, I've seen it all. And I've seen in 2008, I saw 9 of the home builders in Ottawa completely fold in like 2 months.
Hmm.
And so, it's cyclical, and we're going to hit that. And what I tell people is, during a recession, you don't move down. You don't entrench and pull in, lay off. You move up,
You move
and
up. That's
you
so
move up,
true.
and it's more scary.
You do the
But
opposite of what everybody else is doing.
you move up, and what I tell people is, you're just moving up to the places those people moved out of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move up, and that's hard for people to it's fear. Business is fear. It's the risk, right? It's the risk of
Yeah.
being on your own. If you can get a handle on your fear, you can move mountains, and you can do whatever you want. If you don't like a situation, change it. And I think some people think they're stuck in, especially when they've expanded rapidly and are trying to just trying to keep up with the expansion, which is major investments, which uh, uh, building a team is very difficult. You have to, that I think takes a few years minimum. I don't know. I've never met anybody who was good at managing people from the get go. Usually they're terrible.
Yeah.
And so, but you still have to do all these things. You have to go through all these things. I could tell you what I did, and you could do it, and it might turn out different, or you might just fly through it. But that's sort of my story of that sort of thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And wow, 45 years. What I'm not even gonna most of my podcasts I get.
Steve, it's the same stuff. Really,
Oh yeah.
it's the same stuff. To say I did it for 45 years doesn't really mean anything. It's more
Yeah.
the maturity. It's not that I became super skilled. You just become mature to life's uh, curves in the road, and you do have the advantage of clientele that have hung on and carried along with you,
Hmm.
and so that anybody would get that, just if you just stuck it out, if you just didn't give
If you
up.
just if you just stuck it out. Yeah, for sure. For sure. What I mean, for people under 10 years in business, so like what do you recommend? What advice would you give?
For someone who is 10 years in business,
Yeah, just people much, because I think
well,
everybody
I would
says that.
suspect if you're 10 years, you've gotten through the basics.
Yeah, yeah,
You're able to pay your taxes and all those sort of boring things that have to be done. I'm lucky enough to have a wife who's a bookie, so she takes care of all of that stuff to allow me to be creative. And I think
yeah,
entrepreneurs in themselves are quite creative people. So if you're at the 10-year mark, you're probably assessing where you are, and because you probably didn't really have a solid plan. You might have thought you did. You might have even wrote stuff down in books. But if you didn't jig and jog and adjust and adapt to the changing markets, then you're just going to be you know, I, and if you want to grow beyond where you are, maybe you are happy after 10 years. Maybe you make a product and it's doing well and you have employees and that's enough for you. And I'm not belittling that at all. For me, that wasn't enough. In fact, I
Yeah.
don't think I'll ever be done. And so what I say is at 10 years, you should assess what it is that you're actually after. And
Mm.
if it was monetary, then judge it for that. And if it was to leave a mark as a craftsman, ask yourself that too. And most importantly, as I said, ask yourself if you're an artist or an entrepreneur. Um,
Hmm.
some people can be both. I've never met very many, and
Mm.
and an an entrepreneur is an artist in a way. I, I'm not saying either or, but artists have a different mindset. They think differently.
Yeah.
I think good success stories can be made by two individuals, one an entrepreneur and one an artist, bringing two things together. That the entrepreneur making sure that the business is healthy, and the artist making sure that the product is healthy. And those two together, well, I mean, that's Apple, right? That's Steve Jobs and the Apple phone, and Steve Jobs, the wacko idea guy, right?
Yeah.
Who would never make it on his own. Trust me, right?
Yeah.
But look at how successful that is. So I would
That,
say grapple with those at 10 years. If you find that things have plateaued out.
yeah. Jack, thank you so much. I felt like I could listen to you talk forever. Like, I feel like do you have a book in you? Have you written a book yet? Like,
No, no, but I do talk a lot. So I mean
yeah,
that's mostly social media or whatever, right?
for sure. For sure. Tell everybody your website.
So if you want to check out my website, it's jforsberg.ca, and currently you're going to see last year's Rust Fest on there. And my website is not like your regular website. It doesn't say buy here, click here, right? If you get past that, then you're talking to me. I think I have a little blurb at the very bottom. And
Yeah.
then Jack English Machines is my moniker across all social media, which most people communicate with me through that.
Jack, thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom and your expertise. Yeah, it was great to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Steve. Nice
All
talking
right.
to you too.
All right. Take care.